Okay, let's start again. Casi nadie. Ready? Sit down. Okay. All right, let's change. Casi nadie sabe mi nombre real. Hardly anybody. Casi nadie sabe mi nombre real. Hardly anybody knows my real name. Hardly anyone knows my real name. Es correcto decir almost nobody. Decir almost más la palabra negativa. Pero es mucho más corriente hardly y la palabra neutra. Casi ninguno, hardly any. Casi ninguno de los objetos aquí es mío. Hardly any of the objects here belong to me. Casi nadie en el gobierno me conoce. Hardly anybody in the government knows me personally. Casi nadie ve mi programa. Hardly anybody watches my program. Yeah, it's starting to get me down. It's starting to get me down. It's starting to discourage me. Okay, to let me down is decepcionarme. To get me down is desanimarme. If you let me down, it will get me down. Si me defraudas, me desanimarás al final. If you let me down so many times, finally you will get me down, okay? And I know that nobody's watching me now, that I'm teaching in a vacuum, en un vacío, and it's starting to get me down. Casi nadie me ve. Hardly anybody watches me on TV. Casi nadie presta atención a lo que digo. Hardly anybody pays attention to what I say. Almost everybody ignores me. Hardly anybody pays attention to me. Hardly anybody listens to my sermons. Hardly anybody follows up on what I tell them. Hardly anyone. Hardly anyone. Hardly anyone understands why I do this. Hardly anybody really, en el fondo, deep down, profundo abajo. Esa forma en inglés es en el fondo. Casi en el fondo cree que lo que digo es verdad. Hardly anybody deep down believes what I say. Cuando predico la verdad, people prefer not to listen. Or they listen, but then they don't practice. But that's common. That happens all the time. In the Catholic Church, the priest preaches, predica, the righteous path, the correct way. And people sin, pecan. And they come back and they confess. And the priest absolves. And the following week the same. The priest is constantly sermoning and preaching. And people are constantly sinning and coming to confess. And it's been going on for 1,800 years, the life of the Catholic faith. It's the same with me. I preach. The people don't learn. I preach. The people don't learn. And the people tell me, es que no doy golpe, es que no estudio. Okay, fine, but I continue preaching. It's the same idea. So, casi nadie me hace caso. Hardly anybody pays any attention to me. Hardly anybody pays any attention to me. Casi nadie en España ya. Casi nadie, por lo menos los que yo conozco, fuma. Hardly anybody smokes. Most of the people I know don't smoke. Hardly anybody in my circle of friends and acquaintances smoke. All right. Casi todo el mundo se quedó dormido. Almost everybody fell asleep in my class. Debo de ser un profesor aburrido, ¿eh? I must be a boring teacher. Si no, no me lo explico. I must be a boring teacher. Otherwise, I can't figure it out. I can't explain it. También decimos, no me lo explico en inglés. Decimos, no lo explico. Otherwise, porque si no, because otherwise, I can't explain it. Pero decimos más, I can't figure it out. Why does everybody fall asleep in my class? What's the problem? Is it me or is it them? ¿Soy yo o son ellos? En inglés, c'est moi. Is it me or is it them? Is it my fault or is it their fault, my students? Why do my students fall asleep? Fall asleep. fall asleep, fall asleep. Why do they fall asleep in my class? Debo de ser aburrido. I must be boring. Mis clases deben de ser aburridas. My classes must be boring. Otherwise, there is no explanation. Otherwise, I can't figure it out. Casi todo el mundo, unos no. There's one boy in the third row, fourth desk, who never falls asleep. He pays attention to me all the time. Okay? So at least for one person, but all the rest, casi todo el mundo se quedó dormido ayer en mi clase. Almost everybody fell asleep. Y bueno, diciendo lo mismo, pero de otra manera, hardly anybody managed to stay awake. Casi nadie logró mantenerse despierto. Hardly anybody, hardly anyone managed to stay awake. Almost everybody fell asleep. Casi todos, casi nadie. Casi todos, casi nadie. Escuchad. Casi todos, almost everyone. Casi nadie, hardly anyone. Almost everyone, hardly anyone. Almost everybody, que es equivalente, hardly anybody. Ahora pensad entre ahora y la clase mañana about Spanish people. In this country, hardly anyone goes to, I don't know, hardly anyone goes to Moldova on vacation. Almost everyone leaves Madrid on the weekend. Hardly anyone smokes cigars. Almost everyone smokes cigarettes or nothing at all. Hardly anyone believes that the earth is the center of the universe, physically, not necessarily spiritually. Hardly anyone believes that the earth is the center of the universe. Almost everybody believes that the earth is simply one dot, una punta, in the middle of a firmament, in the middle of the universe. Okay. Almost everyone agrees that learning English well is important, but hardly anyone makes the effort to follow up on this belief. All right? So, casi nadie, casi todo el mundo. Casi nadie is hardly anybody. Casi todos, almost everyone. Casi nada is hardly anything. Casi todos, almost everything. All right? Almost everything in this room is expensive. This pen is not expensive. This cup is not expensive. These books are not expensive. But this microphone is expensive. Those cameras are expensive. The lights are expensive. The floor technician is expensive. Me, I'm not expensive. I'm cheap. All right? But all the rest is expensive. So almost everything. Casi todo aquí es caro. Almost everything in this room is expensive. Hardly anything is cheap. Only the cup, the pen, the books, and me. We're the only cheap objects in this room. All the rest of the objects are expensive, especially you. You are very expensive because to win your attention, to gain your attention, is very expensive. In order to get you to attend this class, we need to spend a fortune in lights, cameras, technicians, microphones, technological signal. You know how expensive it is to conseguir que estés aquí en este aula. Do you know how expensive it is? Do you know how expensive it is? ¿Sabes cómo de caro es? Do you know how expensive it is for me to speak to you on this camera and then to change to another camera? Do you know how much that camera costs? It's expensive. Do you know how much that other camera costs? Do you know how much the camera costs that I used at the beginning? There are 3 cameras here. That's very, very expensive. So we spend a fortune to bring English into your house. So you are the most expensive element in this equation. And we need you here because you are an essential element in this equation, making you like the English language and want to learn it. Okay. Los dos se quedaron dormidos. Los dos. Both of them fell asleep. Can you believe it? I was giving a class about 2 weeks ago. Al parecer soy un profesor muy aburrido. ¿Cómo se dice al parecer? Apparently, I'm a boring teacher. 2 weeks ago, I was giving class to 2 students, only 2 students sitting opposite me, and both of them fell asleep. My God. ¿Alguna sugerencia tienes? Any suggestions? Maybe I should change my style of teaching. If both of them fell asleep, neither of them could stay awake. Both of them fell asleep. Neither of them, ni el uno ni el otro, he dicho neither of them, neither one could stay awake. I was watching their eyes, and their eyelids, los párpados, their eyelids were falling. And I was trying to teach the best I could, and their eyelids kept falling, seguían cayendo. And finally, they fell asleep right in front of me. Can you believe it? Right in front of me. My 2 students fell asleep. So, either they were drugged, or I'm a lousy teacher. Lousy es una palabra muy corriente en inglés que literalmente significa piojoso, porque viene de la palabra piojo. House es casa, house. Mouse es ratón, Mickey Mouse. Quitas la M de mouse, le pones una L, louse, y es piojo. Y el plural es lice, escrito lice, como mouse, un ratón. 2 ratones, 2 mice. Pero con house, ojo, no es heis, es houses. There are exceptions. But in any case, lousy, laus, piojo, quitando la E, poniendo Y, no significa piojoso. Significa mal, chapucero. Okay, pésimo, lousy. So my only conclusion is 2. Either, 2 weeks ago, those 2 students who fell asleep in my class right in front of me, I couldn't believe it, both of them. Almost at the same time. Nearly at the same time. But they both fell asleep. Hay 2 formas de decirlo. Ambos se quedaron dormidos. They both fell asleep, or both of them fell asleep. Elige, choose the one you like the best. Neither of them could stay awake. Neither of them could manage. Manage es lograr. Neither of them could manage to keep their eyes open. So my only conclusion is either I'm a bad teacher or they were drugged. And would you like to know what happened after that? Do you want to know the rest of the story? I'll tell you. When they fell asleep in front of me, I was surprised. And, well, okay, yeah. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to wake them up or to let them sleep. The class still had 45 minutes left. I said, my God, my 2 students are asleep in front of me. Can you believe it? Delante de mí, in front of me. They fell asleep. Yeah. So I had to make a decision, either to wake them up or to let them continue sleeping. And I didn't know whether to do one or the other. O despertarles o dejarles dormir. Escuchad, either to wake them up, la M manda aquí, con them, enlaza con la U de up, to wake them up, or to let them continue sleeping like 2 little angels, okay? And I didn't know whether, ahora whether, que suena a tiempo atmosférico, pero con doble H al principio, whether, se aspira un poco, I didn't know whether to wake them up or to let them sleep. And so finally, I decided to wait. But I made noise. I did. And one of them woke up. And when he realized that he had been asleep, and when he realized that his brother, por cierto, eran hermanos, they were brothers, 2 brothers, varones, eh? Si no, diría brother and sister. When he realized that his brother was sleeping, he said, Rafa, And Rafa woke up. And they both were embarrassed. They were embarrassed. I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't upset. I was just intrigued. They fell asleep in front of me. And Raul, Rafa's brother, said, Profe, said, we're sorry. But both of them were, 14 and 15. They were 15 years old. They were adolescents, teenagers. And Raul said, I'm sorry, teacher, that we fell asleep, but our mother gave us a double dose, una dosis doble, of antihistamines this morning because yesterday we had hay fever, a very strong case of springtime allergy, fiebre de leno, hay fever. And we spent the entire day sneezing and rubbing, frotar, rub. To rub is frotar, rubbing our eyes. And our eyes swelled, se hincharon. And so this morning, our mother gave us 2 pills, 2 different pills of antihistamines, and it just makes us so sleepy. I'm sorry, Mr. Teacher, but your classes are very interesting and we enjoy them, but we couldn't stay awake because we had taken a double doses of antihistamines. And so I said, okay, fine. Yeah, and the next class, no problem. So 2 students fell asleep in front of me. Both of them fell asleep. It had never happened in my life. I have fallen asleep in class. Only once I fell asleep in class. But none of my students has ever fallen asleep in my class. How many times have you watched my program? How many times have you been a student in this class? How many times have you fallen asleep in front of me? Never. Come on. When I watch myself in las repeticiones, sometimes I fall asleep. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm watching myself on TV, I fall asleep and start snoring. Do you snore? No? I snore. So when I fall asleep, I start snoring. Okay? And my wife says, my God, he has fallen asleep in front of himself. Can you believe it? The problem is that I get up very early in the morning. I get up very early in the morning at 20 minutes to 6. And this show is repeated at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm lying in bed watching TV, and I start to fall asleep. And I try to stay awake. Even I lift my eyelids. I lift my eyelids to stay awake, but I can't. And finally, I fall asleep in front of myself. I wonder if that is the first in history. Maybe it should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. But in any case, I fall asleep in front of myself often. But you don't have permission to fall asleep. No. You don't have my permission to fall asleep. Stay awake. Don't dare, ni te atrevas, ni se te ocurra. En inglés, ocurrírsele a uno, en este caso, no se te ocurra quedarte dormido delante de mí. Don't dare, escrito daddy, don't dare fall asleep in front of me. I'm your teacher. I know what's best for you. Okay, todos ellos se quedaron dormidos. All of them. No, both of them, porque eran 3 ya. All of them fell asleep in front of me. Había mucha gente, pero ninguno de ellos eran socios. There were a lot of people at the party, but none of them were members of the club. This party was designed for the members of the Lions Club, El Club de los Leones. It's a club in the United States similar to the Rotarios, to the Rotaries. It's the Lions Club. And we invited 30 people. All of them are members of the Lions Club. And after the first 2 hours in the party, I realized that there were a lot of people. But none of them, escrito none, none of them were members of the Lions Club. And I said to my wife, darling, isn't this strange that none of the people here are members of the Lions Club? Acabo de cometer un error gramatical, pero es un error que cometemos todos en inglés y vosotros en español también. Yo giré hacia mi mujer y le dije, No es raro que ninguna de las personas aquí es miembro del club o socio del club. All right. En español es, pero mucha gente, ¿no te das cuenta que ninguno de ellos, ninguna de las personas aquí son miembros o socios? Son es incorrecto y are en inglés es incorrecto, pero se dice universalmente. None of the people here are members of the Lions Club. None. Ahora, si hubiera solo 2 personas en la fiesta, y no 100, por ejemplo, no diría yo none. No diría none of the people at this party are members of the Lions Club. I would say neither of the people here are members of the Lions Club. Porque son 2. Ninguno de los 2 es neither. Ninguno de los 3 o más es none. En cuanto cambies de 2 a 3, neither cambia none, y both cambia all. All the people here, well, both of the people here, si fueran 2, both of the people here are members of the Lions Club. Neither of the people here is a member of the Lions Club. Pero en cuanto haya 3, all of the people here are members of the Lions Club. Both of the people here are members, all of the people or none of the people are members of the Lions Club. ¿Cuántos de ellos hablan inglés? How many of them speak English? None of them. Come on. How many of them speak a little English or more? Well, all of them speak a little English. But in my opinion, none of them speak English. All of them speak a few words of English, o chapurrean mi idioma, pero ninguno lo habla. All of them speak English, pidgin English, all right? But none of them speak good English. All right, de los 2, ¿cuál habla bien inglés? Of the 2, which one speaks English well? Of the 2, which one speaks well? Both of them speak well. Neither of them speak well. Siendo 2, repitamos esto. Of those 2 people over there, look over there. Can you see them? You see those 2 people? Of those 2 people over there, which one speaks English well? Both of them. Both of them. In my opinion, both of them. In my opinion, neither of them. You understand? Son 2. Which one? Ahora si son 3 o más, pero vamos con 3. Can you see those people over there? Allí, over there, in the corner, yeah, those people. Of those 3 people, how many of them speak English well? In my opinion, all of them. I know them personally. All of them speak English well. And in your opinion, me, none of them speak English well. None of them. You're a very negative person. No, they don't speak English. None of them speaks English well. Si son 3 o más, all of them or none of them. Si son 2, both of them, neither of them, or neither of them. Ambas pronunciaciones nos valen. Ok, hay 2 posibilidades, de las cuales ninguna me convence. Pero estoy hablando de 2. Hay 2 posibilidades, de las cuales ninguna me convence. This cup is dripping. Juan Luis, we're going to have the table is wet. De las 2, hay 2 posibilidades aquí, de las cuales ninguna me convence. There are 2 possibilities, neither of which convinces me. There are 2 possibilities, neither of which convinces me. Okay? Hay 3 posibilidades, de las cuales ninguna me convence. There are 3 possibilities, none of which convince me or convinces me. Okay? None of which. Cuando son 3, ya pasamos de neither a none. Hay 2 alternativas de las cuales las 2 son buenas. There are 2 alternatives, both of which, no digo both of them, digo both of which, de las cuales ambas. There are 2 possibilities, both of which are good, in my opinion, both of which are positive. Si dijera both of them, sería el inicio de una frase nueva. Hay 2 posibilidades, punto. Ambos son buenos. There are 2 possibilities. 2 of them are positive. Pero aquí tenemos un coma. Hay 2 posibilidades de las cuales las 2. both of which. There are 3 possibilities, all of which are good. And I'll discuss those possibilities with you another day, because I don't have time to discuss them now. So, if you don't mind, I will take a break and the class is over. I am free, como un pájaro, libre como un pájaro. I'm free to take the rest of the day off because the class is over. But I'll see you again tomorrow, okay? Okay.